Oops. Good morning, this is Atsushi. I will do Sashiko Live Streaming. Sorry, it's just a little bit, I need a little bit of preparation yet. There we go. It's all good, I think. Okay. It's good, right? I hope you can hear me. There we go. Let's go. So this is Sashiko Live Streaming. My name is Atsushi. I will be doing Sashiko stitching, and I will answer the questions about Sashiko history, culture, mindset. But I'm not gonna answer the questions. I'm not gonna answer the question about the techniques in this live streaming, because of few reasons, which I have explained it already on this other videos, as well as I have an online class where I teach those. So to be fair with everybody, I do not teach any. Oh my god, to teach any techniques now, but I'll be happy to answer the questions about Sashiko culture. Hello. Right now, Sakura. Sorry, there's a cat. Wanna say hello, everybody? Sakura, Noboru? Ui. Ui. Sakura. 登るなら登りや。登るなら登りや。ほい。そうすや。ね。こんなん、前、こん前もた。あ。Sorry, she started sleeping on my lap, so I. ああ、危ない。桜落ちる。So I'm stitching the. I don't think this is a vintage fabric, but they swatch to make a Sashiko mask next, the 5th Sashiko mask after this. And I'm trying to use this square patterns on the fabric already to make the stitching patterns. So I didn't much do the preparation. I used the original patterns, original fabric patterns to make these patterns. Hello, hello. Please let me know if the screen moves a lot. I am trying to not do. This table is kind of shaky, so I don't want to make everybody sick. And if I forgot, somebody asked me some questions before, so if you, I forgot how. I'm sorry about that. Did you have any question, Lisa, before I think somebody. Oops. I believe that I received a question from somebody, but I forgot. Okay. I had some topic. I was asking about different fabric. There we go. Thank you so much. Yes. So the fabric. The fabric wise. Just a second. Fabric. As I think I have a video about the fabric, but in my opinion, any kind of fabric is okay. I like the Japanese vintage fabric as well as cotton fabric, which is traditionally woven fabric is always a good choice for me, but they tend to be quite expensive to enjoy casual sashiko. So I do not use those fabric that often. Instead, I use the indigo fabric I mainly use every day. Um, Besides that, it's kind of, I'm sorry that I'm not giving you a specific answer, but it's up to your preference. Some people like denim, very hard fabric. Some people like canvas fabric. I just don't, what I don't recommend is the stretchy fabric like t-shirts, sweater, socks, which I'm not saying like you cannot do it. It's just not my preference. I sometimes do sashiko on the socks. So there's no such a thing as that you cannot do any sashiko on fabric. But I guess it's really up to the preference, and heavy fabric might be a good idea too. Instead of light fabric, like cotton light fabric might be a little bit difficult to stitch on, even though if it's not stretchy. Then your answer will be how much, how how heavy it is. I will. I have some information in Japanese, so I have to kind of translate that in my mind. So I will do that a little later next time. But not to, well, this is a very lame question, but the more expensive it is, the better it is for me. Price has a reason for that. I kind of go with the price from the trusted vendors. If they price higher, that means that's a kind of good fabric, and for that I kind of trust them, and I have been having good experience for that. So I don't think you can translate that. So I'll summarize it somewhere. So why is the light fabric difficult? Why is that light fabric difficult? Why? That's a very good question. But I think you know why, though, don't you? White, like light fabric is quite difficult because it doesn't give you the rhythm, does it? I don't get that much rhythm when I am stitching the light fabric. That's one of the biggest reason I prefer the heavier fabric. I'm not saying that light fabric is impossible to stitch. It's just the difficult, more. How can I say? I'm not used to the light fabric to stitch on because my family was always stitching on something very heavy. So, but if you feel comfortable, if you feel that you can get the rhythm with the lighter fabric, I don't think I have any problem with that. Yes, lighter fabric. I do actually have the things here. This is quite light fabric. It's quite light. And there's nothing wrong with, like, the same stitches, but it doesn't give you the same rhythm. I'm sorry. I keep saying the same thing. It doesn't give you the rhythm. It's really difficult to, like, it's a difference between running on the sand, grass, and asphalt, concrete. What is the best? I prefer the grass. I like running on the grass or like mountains. Some people might prefer that running on the sand because that's how they were grown up. Some people might like it to just run on the stadiums. So there's nothing wrong with running itself, and there's nothing wrong to choose where to run on. but everybody has some preference. For me, since I was very spoiled, I was raised in a very good environment in terms of Sashiko stitching. In terms of everything else, that was a horrible environment, but since I was raised the best situation for the Sashiko stitching, I'm very spoiled. So my preference is heavy, non-stretchy, cotton, Japanese woven, vintage fabric. But most of the fabric mills are small, and they're probably, as long as I know, more than half, I would say, are gone. They are out of business now. So I have to be very careful to what to choose. But it is kind of, how can I say it is, I would say it's almost arrogant to tell everybody to use one specific fabric, because it's simply is difficult to get in the US. And if I say like, well, if you don't use this fabric, it's not gonna be called Sashiko, then that's gonna be pretty arrogant, right? Like, I don't want to be like that. So thread, you can get it from many places, and I can ship over international when this crisis is gone. And I really sincerely believe that thread makes a difference, a big difference. Needle too, but fabric itself is something we can compromise. So it's yeah, like, as you said, the heavier fabric with the more open wave is good for me. Then that's the best for you, and I have no problem with that. And I do have some, I do have the fabric I recommend. I would like to introduce that sometimes in the future. I had introduced some of those in before, but there was selling the fabric, introducing the fabric is kind of difficult as this solo business. So I'll do when I have time a little more. But there's no problem with that. And for the rulers, any kind of another bad answer. I'm sorry to say that, but any ruler is fine. Like, I sometimes use this very cheap made plastic from the dollar store, I believe, which I bought for the daughter's crafting. I sometimes use this. I used it this morning. There's nothing wrong with that. The wood one is nice, which I don't have right now with me. At the same time, if you are gonna go for the best available option, everybody's favorite Omni Grid. This is probably the best rulers I can think of for many reasons, but this can go quite pricey, which is okay, which I think it's a good investment if you're gonna do the quilting or even Sashiko for a long time. This is a very good investment. Size of the rulers, well, I have 4 sizes, I guess, but they sell many sizes. So I think you can get any size you want. Like, this can go like, this is like what, 12 inch by 12 by 6 inch. I do have 12 by 24. I think 12 by 24 is probably the biggest I have, and that's what I've been using. That's good enough for now. Personally, I have found that Sashiko thread is the most important element. It's the tool I cannot do without. Since using it, I am using it for mending. Thank you so much. Yes. So, as much as I want to answer all the questions with the specific answer, like, I should probably say that don't use these, plastic. Do not use that. Do not use anything else. Just go get the Omni Grid size. You have to have all the sizes they provide to make a very beautiful patterns. I probably should say that if I were the teacher or if I'm trying to be a good business person, but this is not that important. I mean, this is great. This is OmniGrid is the perfect rulers for the making patterns, but just try to get one. Like this is a good size, I think. It's the good size 12 by 6. And then if you feel you need bigger rulers, for example, denim, when you are stitching on the denim, the 24 might be a good idea to have, but not necessary because you can just keep doing that. So, I am not probably going to recommend to get every single size is available from the beginning because it can be like $100, probably more. So why don't people get one OmniGrid, and then you can just keep adding to the collection. Of course, if they have like a good deal to buy a set, I have no problem with you getting everything. But the fabric and rulers are not the primary supply or tools to make good Sashiko stitching. However, as I keep saying, thread does make a big difference though. So it's simply V is right. I thank you so much for the comment. If I don't have this thread, I cannot do Sashiko stitching at all. That's why I'm kind of selling the Sashiko thread because without that manufacturer, I don't know what to do. And those manufacturers are kind of Japanese artisans. They are very okay. I'm saying this because it's English. Do not translate it to Japanese and publish it somewhere. They are not easy to. I'm not easy to have a business with. I understand. I'm probably easy to have a business. I tried my best to be a customer first business person, but some of the artisans I work with in Japan are not that, including my mom. So let's say I got this same thread. One is this like both of them have the same number, right? Like the same number. So it has to be the same color, right? One has the number 10, this has number 10. It has to be the same color because we number that. However, sometimes it's not. And of course, I have to make complaints like why it is not the same color. The answer is well, that's what you get. The end of the conversation. If I don't do that, if I kind of, then they say like, well, then don't buy it. Then don't bother. And that's kind of a Japanese artisanship, which is not good as the business person. But in Japan, the customer doesn't come first sometimes, which is great, which is sometimes very good. Some of the sushi restaurant, you have to be like, there's a word for that. Ichigen-san okotowari is the Japanese word for that. Ichigen-san okotowari, I will write it down somewhere. I don't have that. There's a word for that. Ichigen-san okotowari. That means that you have to have somebody's reference or recommendation to get into the shop. It really is popular in traditional culture area like restaurant, gallery, traditional crafting. Some people like no first time comers are welcomed. See, that's not business, right? That's not a good business. But that's what happens in Japan sometimes, and some of the artisans are like that. They really don't focus on the customer side. Well, I mean, it's all about balance. It has to be balanced, but it's not that difficult. I mean, I can't find that thread where I live up to now. Well, again, like it's okay. Like if you cannot find it, that's perfectly fine. Sometimes the thread can be quite expensive. Oops. I mean, thread can be quite, not a thread, the shipping can be quite expensive. Shipping can be quite expensive. And under this, condition, some countries we cannot even make a delivery. So it is okay to substitute the thread with other thread. Like, there's nothing we can do. My point is that I just don't want you to think that any thread is okay. If you have a chance, I want you to try that. If you don't have a chance, you have to. I want you to wait for that chance to come. But if one starts saying that any kind of thread is good, then that's kind of a repainting. So as long as you're saying like, well, I have to use the substitute due to the current condition, then that's I'm perfectly fine with that. But usually when people ask me what is the wrong with my Sashiko, why can't I make a good stitches, I usually ask them to take the workshop first, because that's the first step to do it, and second step is the thread. Probably thread can be a first step, because if you have a good thread, the result is quite. I should have probably draw the. So this is the result of not drawing the patterns before stitching. It might look good, but some places are not straight, some places not even. So I probably should have draw the patterns first and then do it, but oopsie. My whole point of live streaming is to share how I do it. If this was for somebody's, like, if I do this as a commission work, I wouldn't do this. This is for my wife's mask or myself mask, so it's okay that I do this. You don't have to be a perfectionist. You don't have to be a perfectionist. What are your thoughts on the restriction that Japanese artisans place on their customers' base? Let me read that again. What is my thoughts on the restrictions that Japanese artisans place on their customers' base? Do you think that that word of mouth? Restriction? Is there a restriction that Japanese artisans place on their customers' base? I do not know that. Do you think? I don't know if this is an answer for your question, but traditionally speaking, before the internet, the Japanese traditional craft, including Sashiko, existed for the reasons the Japanese people used that craft. Wood carving, glass work. There were people, there were communities who used that craft. That's why they could exist. That's way before the Industrial Revolution. That was probably before the internet kicks in. That was before the globalization. Even with the mass production, mass consumption society, before this globalization, that supply chains has changed. Ha! So we plan something, we make samples in the developed country, and then make those manufacture move to the developing countries to make it cheaper. That's what changed the Japanese, or like any artisanship. So the Japanese crafts had a customer or even like a community for their existence. Therefore, they didn't have to really care. The customer support was not that necessary, so that's not built in. But in this age, in 2020, we all have to learn how to introduce, how to share what we do, to be, to be chosen for that. So restrictions are, as you were speaking of earlier, the shops that won't sell to new customers. Just a second, okay? I will read that. So for us, let me rephrase that. There are many levels of Japanese artisanship. For example, some of the artists who make specific items to the government or shrines or temples for those Japaneseness purpose, I don't think they need any customer base or like they don't do any business for the end users. The same times there are a lot of crafts vanishing from the realities, like people getting too old, and the new people don't do it anymore. Sashiko is one of those. So Sashiko wasn't a very ordinary craft, so there's no specific customers, like the government don't buy out. The government will not really support that. It's not supposed to be supported because that's not special. If the government supports, it becomes super not a super. If the government starts supporting it, it's gonna be extraordinary. So it ruins the whole purpose. So specifically talking about Sashiko, it has to be used by the ordinary people, and therefore customer is very important to me. However, those other suppliers who support Sashiko itself can be in between this super high protected area and customer area. So for me, Sashiko is supposed to be more like if I start saying that you have to have a letter of recommendation to learn how to do Sashiko, that ruins the whole purpose of Sashiko to begin with. Like that's not Sashiko at all. Anybody can learn Sashiko. That's the point. I mean, there's a restriction based on the capability, availability. But if I start saying that only chosen people or only rich people can enjoy Sashiko, if I start saying that, please stop me there. Like, you can say like, Atsushi, that's not what you're saying. That's really wrong. You're wrong. You have to change your mind. You're doing something very contradictory. Please stop me. I will have to sort of like a restrictive number of people who can get the service I provide, because I'm single. I'm only one person who is doing it right now. So there's a limit that I can do. Therefore, I have to prioritize people sometimes. However, if I start saying that nobody can, only this kind of person can enjoy Sashiko, then that's the whole, that's the end of my message. So what I'm saying is that any artisanship which wants to be left alone, no, let me back up. Even as the artisans, we have to learn how to do the customer base business. Without that, there will not be any market left. Without the market, the culture might not exist. Some people are okay with that. Some people are okay with the dying with the culture. I have met some people like that too. But I am not okay with it. So I think that's a very good question. I'll think about it. I have to write about that too. But my point is, there are still places in Japan that you have to have a specific recommendation or a specific introduction letter of thank you letter of introduction to have experience. And I'm not that. I mean, anybody can learn this. So that's why I also say that your recommendation, the word of mouth, sharing what I do is very much appreciated because that's my goal. Like anybody can do it. The more people enjoy what I do, the more people will support what I use, and as a result, the shrinking the market of the Sashiko thread will probably not. It's not shrinking, but those those very stubborn artisans who make Sashiko thread might open up their mind too. Do I think after this COVID things you will teach? I hope so. I really hope so. I mean, that's. I wish I. Well, I hope. I really hope that I can do the workshop again. But honestly speaking, we probably have to wait until the vaccination comes out. I will have to touch your hand. I will have to get closer to you. 6 feet is kind of unrealistic for me to teach Sashiko. Well, probably I can if I try hard. But we will touch the same fabric over and over. So, as much as I will be careful on sanitizing my hands, at least right now it's not realistic to do it. I don't want to, endanger anybody. And, it is very sad and very difficult for me because that was my main income source. Like teaching in New York was the biggest things I was doing. So I hope I can do that. And also the second thing is that where is the another question. I usually have a place where host me to do it. We have to support those people who have the venue, stores, studio. So I will talk to them again what they're doing. Yeah, whenever they think it is safe to be around people, I am hoping. Oh, well, the workshop in Florida, which is probably not the best time to go right now. The workshop Florida in February is still ongoing, so probably that's the first workshop I'm gonna restart on. I don't know if I can do the workshop in November or December this year. I don't know how realistic it is. There are a lot of good news. Okay, good news is good. Let's keep eye on that. I suppose the different levels in artisanship exist in different types of craft. I agree that it would be Sashiko into irony. Yes. So that thank you so much for understanding. That's what I meant. Yes. So it's kind of a choice. My family wanted to make Sashiko more exclusive, not inclusive. That's another reason that I was not on the surface of internet for a long time. So my family wanted to make Sashiko exclusive. I was raised in that kind of environment that I'm the only one here of this. However, the more I learn about Sashiko, the more I kind of realized the contradiction in that message. So it is understandable to make some culture to be exclusive to protect. I understand that strategies, but if the culture itself is already ordinary, based on the ordinary as is, it is kind of unnatural to make it or to preserve that. We cannot make the, how can I say, what is the good, what is the good example about that? We love the grandma's mashed potatoes and gravies, right? Like that's very good taste. That's a fantastic taste of the grandma's recipe, like strawberry jam or like cranberry jam, mashed potatoes with the gravy. That's very tasty, and we think that's the best things ever. But when we think about that as the Michelin's 3 stars food, we feel like that might be something's wrong. So for me, the more I learn about Sashiko, the more I realize the Sashiko has to be the culture of ordinary people. So making it super, how do you say, I cannot talk today. Making it exclusive is kind of opposite of what we are being, at least what I have received. I hope it makes sense. Sorry, I cannot speak English today. Well, difficult. Has been already 45 minutes? Oh my gosh, I will do another 10 minutes or so and then I will go off. Thank you so much for the questions. The questions makes me talk more and that's really helpful for me to keep doing the live streaming. I sometimes don't answer very well, but you know, I'll try my best. Some of the Japanese crafts, some of the Japanese artisanships is purely based on the skill. Sashiko is not that. The skill is not that. Like what I'm doing is very easy. And many people say, "Well, you have a lot of experience." You have like, yes, I do have a lot of experience, but at the same time, it's not that difficult. If you can drive a car, you can do this. If you can ride a bicycle, you can do this. I mean, it's really not that difficult. The thing is that it looks like difficult. That's why you have to kind of be okay. Like, you have to kind of suffer for the first few hours or first few days or first few weeks. And many people give up there. I don't want to do this. It's not for me. The same as bicycle. Like, the first few hours of riding without the support wheels are kind of painful. Many people know that it's gonna be okay after some practicing. That's why we encourage our kids to do it, even though they might be a little bit painful. Sashiko is the same. So if I have to use the thread that's not Sashiko thread, I don't think I can make beautiful Sashiko stitching. That's how scary it is. Well, I think I don't have that confidence. There's a Japanese word like the master doesn't, like the calligraphy master doesn't choose the brush. Like if he's the master of the calligraphy, any brush is gonna be good, and he's gonna be the master for work. Probably yes in Sashiko, but I'm not that level yet, and I would like to use the good brush to make a good calligraphy. How do you feel about students teaching Sashiko? Do you think they might offer Sashiko teaching? Do I think? Yes, that's a very, very common question. Like, the certification is very, 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 very common question. Like, do you offer the certification? Do I offer the certification to teach Sashiko? Um, the answer is yes and no. I do not want to make the empire to teach Sashiko because it's super easy. There's nothing to teach that much. It's not gonna be like a whole semester class. It's gonna be just 3 hours, 4 hours workshop, and that's it. I cannot teach you how to flip the burgers for 5 hours or 10 hours or 5 years. So I am not trying to make a school to teach Sashiko. However, if one would like to teach after taking my workshop, I will help them too. And if people call that certification, yes, call it certification. And I might ask them to help me in return somehow. I don't know. But if anybody who learned from me wants to be the teacher, I'm happy. And in fact, I kind of tell them it's okay to do it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And of course, I want to. I don't want them to ignore me when they teach what I taught them. Does it make sense? I don't want my students to teach the other people saying that that's the skill they created from the scratch. However, if the student taught, if they're my friend, if my friends teach the Sashiko they learn from me to somebody by mentioning my name, I have no problem with that. And if they need my help to teach, yes, I would help. It might cost some money because it's my time spending, but of course, with agreement, I'm happy to help. And if they want to call it certification, I'm happy with that. But I'm not gonna make a certification to attract the others because that might be like I just don't want to have those empire that I don't want to make a cult. Like many people worship some certification. Like certification means nothing for me. I don't have any certification. Yes, like just mention my name, credit my name, and then share what I do. That's all that's all I need. Does it make sense? I hope I'm making myself clear. One on your point, would you say that making the craft more expensive is counterintuitive to the humble? No, 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 no. I'm not saying that. What? ちょっと待って。Questions are so difficult. Just a second. On my point, would I say that making the craft more exclusive is counterintuitive to the humble origin of the craft and practice? Depends on the origin of crafts. It depends. Sashiko is originated from the ordinary culture. If the craft or art is from the exclusive origin, some culture, some craft in Japan are only allowed to some certain people. Even like a Japanese kabuki arts, that's kind of performing art. You have to be born in some specific family, or you have to be in that family. You kind of have to drop everything and be part of that family. So that's quite exclusive, right? Like it's very exclusive. If the origin is so exclusive, making it inclusive is kind of ruining the whole purpose. The same thing goes to the opposite. If the first thing is too very ordinary, making it too exclusive ruins the whole purpose. So that's why I don't say I hope in my communication I never attack the other people who is teaching Sashiko, right? If you follow me, I think when I never attacked anybody who teaches Sashiko without any proper knowledge. I sometimes say that I wish I wish they would learn, but they might be doing the Sashiko that I don't know, which I kind of doubt. But I never, like, another thing, I never talk about I never attack the Japanese people who practice Sashiko in Japan. Because even if I don't know anything about what they do, their Sashiko might be the Japanese culture which existed in their origin. It might be the different origin, which I just don't know. So I made something kind of exclusive in English because there are many people who teach Sashiko without even knowing the difference between the Japanese Sashiko and the other Sashiko. That's a little, But I'm not gonna attack them. I'm not gonna be a police, I'm not gonna police around to say something bad. But the Japanese wise, any Japanese who practice stitching calling Sashiko may be there ordinarily. And I would like to learn instead of it being exclusive. That's why there was not even single war in Japan about Sashiko. Can you believe it? There's, as long as I know. But usually in those big culture or big craft, there's sometimes a little, not a war, but like disagreement, dispute, kind of war, that which is right and which is wrong. I'm the mainstream of the Sashiko, the craft. They think about it, like many Japanese culture, like tea ceremonies, flower arrangement. There are a lot of families. There are a lot of like which family, what is that, what is not, right? They kind of not a fight, but they disagree each other. In Sashiko, as long as I know, there was no single. They admit, they understand each other that they're different. So the Sashiko I practice is different from the other Sashiko, and we're okay with that. We're fine with it. Well, he's doing something different. That's okay, because that was what was ordinary in the place where I lived. And the reason I'm kind of more articulate about the Sashiko in English is that, do they know that? Probably they don't. That's why if they can discuss about it with me, I'm perfectly fine with accepting that. Some people say that they don't need a thimble. Some people say they don't need any. Well, if they have the, understanding of Sashiko, I'm perfectly fine with that. So to answer the question, the certification wise, yes, I am happy to give any student that, well, at least I have to make sure that these teachers are getting what I taught. So I have to probably check, well, if that might be a process of making certification. I probably have to train somebody to be a good teacher. So if you call that process as a certification process, yes, I am. I can. I might do that. But the person has to, practice a lot to be a teacher. But I'm not saying I'm not gonna do that. I'm happy to do it. Like, the person cannot be the teacher right after my workshop because they might not master they might not have gotten the skill yet, but I know I can think of at least 10 who I think they can be a good teacher if they want to be. That's how good they are right now. Some of them are better than me. I mean, come on, I'm jealous. I'm kind of jealous to them. So, some people have more time than me to make stitching. I'm not the best condition to do the Sashiko stitching because I'm a father of 5 years old. Though, if the kids are all grown up, you have more time to do stitch. So there are people who I think they can teach from my workshop. So if some of them would like to be, well, actually in Japan there is one who is teaching what I teach. So yes, that's actually possible. I didn't really charge her, so it's not a certification, but she can use my name. She can talk to me if she has any questions. So if we call that the certification, yes, I will accommodate that. And the second answer is that knowing is probably the best question to that. Knowing what is the origin is the best answer for that question. So craft itself has its origin, and we decided to either discontinue or continue, and that we is different. Sometimes we, as the Japanese in general, decided to keep one specific crafts as the Japanese traditional crafts, and they may have chosen to be it. Therefore, they exist, and there's like you have to be the apprentice for many years to be the teacher. There's a stream. There's a line of those families or generations of. I think it came back. I think it came back. I'm sorry that I. Just a second. Came back, but I think we have to stop it here. Thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry that I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened, but I'm so sorry about it. I will come back next week. All right. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend. Well, this one was the result today. I didn't stitch much, but these two are today's result. I will see you next week. Bye bye.